Hello! Tonight we are going to be doing some salt dough hearts. So these were really popular at Christmas time to make some cute ornaments with it, but I thought it would be cute to save this one for Valentine's Day. And then I'm going to show you how to do these little, you can cover different cans with the salt dough as well. And you could do, this one is actually just a black pepper can. So I did cover one like that, but you could find just like a can of corn or whatever, just a tin can, any tin can. These I thought were nice and tall and would work well to cover these as well. So I'm gonna just show you guys kind of how to do a couple different things with the salt dough, but the recipe is really simple. It's with stuff that you should probably already have in your kitchen, or most people do, or easily accessible. So we're gonna just start with 1 cup of flour, and then we're gonna add half a cup of salt. I'm using my 1/4 cup measuring cup because we're going to start with a 1/4 cup of water. So again, we just have 1 cup of flour in the bowl, and then we're going to add a half a cup of salt, and then we're going to start with at least a 1/4 cup of water first. And then if you can see when we start mixing that, it kind of has, it takes on that yellow color that the flour has. And I really wanted it to be more of a white color. So go ahead and just add some acrylic white paint, any white acrylic paint. We'll add that to the recipe as well. And we're gonna add that before we continue adding water, just to make sure that we don't get it too runny. So I'm gonna say at least a couple tablespoons of white acrylic paint. We could go up to 3 to 4 tablespoons before we're done. But as you can see, that's still a little bit thick. That's quite a bit of flour in there, so we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit more water. We already had 1/4 cup in there, and we're gonna go about 1/8, about half of that will go for sure. And see if we get to close to a Play-Doh. You really want a Play-Doh consistency because that's really kind of what we're going for, since we're gonna be molding it and using it. Just like a Play-Doh. And it's still kind of a little yellow for me, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more of the acrylic paint. Probably about double what I put in. There's really no reason to measure it as long as you get your consistency right and you get the coloring that you want. Also, you can always come back in after you get this all put together and make your hearts and get your container made. You can always come back in later and paint it. Once we've dried it, once you've baked it on. Whatever containers you're going to be using, I went ahead and cleaned mine with fingernail polish remover. You could use an acetone. You could just clean it with alcohol. I just wanted to make sure that all the grime was out of it so that this dough is gonna stick okay to that. So that seems like it's probably gonna be about the right consistency. It's hard to tell until we start mixing it up. So I'm gonna get my hands dirty and mix it up, and we'll see if we have a good moldable Play-Doh type consistency. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. We've still got a lot of flour in there that's not mixed in. You just want to make sure that because there is paint in here that you choose, like a stainless steel bowl works really well to wash out when you're done, or something that you can clean out because that acrylic paint will stick. That's also why I'm going to lay a piece of foil down when we roll this out, because I have a really porous surface here that I'm working on and I don't want it to soak up all that white paint. You can wear gloves too if you don't want to be digging white paint out of your fingernails for a while. Okay, that's about the right consistency. So we're going to go ahead and roll that out. You can make this in a larger recipe if you want to, but it dries out pretty quickly. So if you're going to do that, I'd make sure you put some sort of saran wrap or something over the bowl just to keep it nice and soft when we're working. So then you're just gonna roll it out just like you would a cookie dough. however much that you may want to make out of hearts. And we're not going to make too much into hearts. What we're going to do is we're going to get a stick out of the yard and paint. We're either going to paint it white or use it the natural color. I'm not for sure yet. We're going to put some foam in the bottom of this and some rocks to keep it nice and heavy and solid. And then we're going to put that tree branch up out of here and then hang our hearts from that. So that's kind of the game plan here, so you guys know what we're doing. So go ahead and roll your dough out to about a little less than 1/4 inch thick, or really however thick you want your hearts, but that seems to dry pretty well if they're not too thick and not too thin. And then I just got my heart cookie cutter at Michael's. They had them on sale for 50% off, and they were only $1.99 to begin with. So I found these cute little metal cookie cutters, and those worked pretty well to do the heart shapes. So just go ahead and cut out your hearts. And then there's a couple different ways that you can add the holes. We're going to add a hole at the top so we can hang them when we're all done. A straw will work if you want to use a straw. With that size cookie cutter, that leaves a pretty good size hole. So another thing, if you can just find anything round, I happen to have this, which worked out really well to put the hole in at first. But when you do that, then I'll show you how to get that little piece out of there. With a straw, when you lift it up, the piece that you poked out with the straw comes right out. So it works really well to get a nice clean hole, but I thought it was kind of big in comparison to the size of the heart. So I wanted to show you with this how it works. When you lift this up, you'll see it just kind of pushed that dough down inside of there. So then you just go through and push it all the way through to get your hole to go all the way through. That just has a little bit of a smaller hole when we're done. And I thought it had a nicer look to it actually also, so. So you can go ahead and set those aside, and you can put them on whatever cookie sheet you're going to be baking them on. It's a good idea not to take the foil with you. There we go. Okay, so we've got our hearts all cut out, and then we're going to go in and roll long strips, and that's what we're going to put onto our container. Again, I'll set this here so you guys can kind of see how that looks as we're going. And then I'm going to go ahead and cover this nice tall round one. So that's the one we're going to be covering right now. And I thought it kind of had a neat look to it. Almost looks like a nice chunky thick yarn or something. This dough for some reason gets air pockets in it. So if you squish it together before you start rolling it out, that kind of takes some of those air pockets out of it. So when you're rolling it, you don't come across those quite as much. And then if you're putting pressure on it as you're rolling it out, it'll also kind of work those air pockets out of it as well. And I found if I went too fast and pressed too hard, I would get them even worse. So just kind of take your time, roll it out nice and even. And I did try this with making it a little bit thicker, and if it's too thick on a container, I thought it didn't really twist very nicely with the other pieces. So you do want it to be kind of a nice thin roll. And then we'll need two of them because we'll twist them together. And you'll just go all the way around your can. With the square pepper can, I just did straight lines on the side because I wanted it to kind of sit flat, and I didn't want those to stand out and be rolled as well. So I just kind of did flat sides on that one. I thought they looked all right. You know, depending on what you're gonna have inside of it, or I mean beside it or around it, you wouldn't even necessarily have to cover one of the sides. I definitely don't think you have to cover the back unless it's gonna be sitting in the middle of a table or something like that, but. Okay, so I'm gonna try to double it and get it thin enough that it can go about double our can, and then I'll show you how it worked the best for me to twist it by just folding it in half, rolling it out as long as you can, and then folding it in half and twisting it against itself. You could roll out two separate pieces, but it worked really well to be able to just fold it like this and then twist it like that. It was kind of nice to be able to hold it and twist it as you're working with it. And if you have it come apart like that, you can just work it back in there and then hide that as you put it on the thing, you know, put that on the back side like this. So then you'll come in on your can and go ahead and just kind of want to stick it down, but really the majority of the pressure is going to go on the end of the can when you tear it off and press it down there. And you could come back around and put a nice thick band of that on the top and bottom also. But that's kind of where you're going to be holding it the most, is at the top and the bottom, and then kind of just press it down also. I'm going to set this here so my can doesn't roll, and then we'll keep rolling these out. Actually, I'll move this down this way so you guys can see a little better. So if you remember on that one, when we folded it in half, and we rolled it, I put the fold on this side. So on this one, we're gonna put the fold on this side, and our twist will be going in the opposite direction if we're rolling them all in the same direction. So I'm not sure if that makes sense to you guys or not, but just play with it and, you know, kind of do it whatever you think. There you can see we got an air pocket, and what happens is it just separates in the middle and gets kind of yucky, and it's really hard to roll that once it does it. So that's why if you kind of keep it slow and just put pressure on it the whole time, it'll work out a little bit better. All right, our can rolled away. That's good, so we smashed it right away. All right, we'll put something on both sides. Okay. So there again, we just folded it in half, and we're rolling it, and then on this one, we're gonna go in the opposite direction, like this. And set it beside it, kind of press it down on the end, and then you kind of wanna press it into the one beside it. And then just tear off that excess. And as you get more of them pressed together, you'll see that they kind of hold themselves to the can and to itself. So just like that. And then once you kind of get into a groove of it, you'll know how much you're using with each roll, and you can kind of see how thick you want it, how big you want it, and then just consistently do that all the way around it. So I put the recipe up above. Again, it's just 1 cup of flour, a half a cup of salt, and then it almost takes an entire half a cup of water, but they say to start with a 1/4 cup and just make sure that you get it mixed in well. And then if you want to add the white acrylic paint to make it a little bit lighter in color so it doesn't have quite as much of a yellow tint to it, you could do that. Or you can leave that cream color too and just paint the whole thing white when you're done. Or paint it any color. But that is all there is to it, guys. I'm gonna show you just one more quick and then we'll jump off here. And again, just be sure to wash everything really well with the acrylic paint in this. You probably don't want to be cooking on that. There again, I went too fast and I got that air bubble. So once that happens, you can just push it back together, kind of pull the air pocket out of it and then keep rolling it. That works too. So we just fold our dough in half and twist it like this. And then because we started on that end with our fold, we're going to start on this end with the next one. So, whoops. The square can stayed in place, but I guess with a round one, it might help to have an extra set of hands helping you out. And then just working your way all the way around the can, and that's all there is to it. I'd love to see pictures. If you guys happen to make some of these and you get them done, I'd love to see some. And I will have some pictures up tomorrow with the hearts hanging on the branch, and you can kind of see what the entire finished look is on it. But thanks again for joining me. Have a great night, everybody.